I admire the history of this nation as much as I love the design of medals it awarded to its soldiers. The design is so explicit. You have two armored arms holding swords. One holds a straight European sword, the other holds a curved Mongolian Russian saber. Both arms are raised, preparing to strike the little rose in the middle. This is not art, it is the map of Finland. Good midnight. This is Solo. Tonight we shall have a look at the story of Finland gaining independence in 1918. For over a century, Finland was a grand duchy under the shadow of the Russian Empire. To the west lay Europe, to the east lay the immense absolute autocracy of the Tsars. Finland was the buffer, the frontier, the little heraldic rose trapped between two massive colliding worlds. But in 1917 the world fractured. The Russian Empire collapsed under the weight of the bloody Bolshevik Revolution. The iron grip of the Tsar was gone, replaced by the chaotic birth of Soviet communism. In that moment of absolute imperial collapse, Finland saw its window. On December 6, 1917, they declared their independence. But freedom is rarely given. It is almost always baptized in blood. Instantly, the new nation collapsed into a brutal, terrifying civil war. A war fought in sub-zero temperatures through trackless pine forests. It was a conflict of absolute ideological fracture. On one side stood the Reds, Finnish industrial workers, armed and backed by Soviet Russia, fighting to turn the new country into a Bolshevik terror state. On the other side stood the Whites, farmers, landowners, and liberals fighting to keep Finland aligned with Western Europe. It was an intimate, devastating war where neighbors fought neighbors in the snow. But by May 1918, the White forces prevailed. The Soviet advance was pushed back, the border was drawn, and the fragile, fierce democracy was born. To understand why the Whites prevailed, we must look at the towering, paradoxical figure who was called upon to lead them. Baron Carl Gustav Emil Mannerheim. Mannerheim was a deeply polished aristocrat and brilliant military mind. For nearly 30 years, he hadn't served Finland. He had served the Russian Empire. He was a highly decorated cavalry general in the Imperial Russian Army. A man who had fought fiercely for the Tsar in the dust of Manchuria during Russo-Japanese War and in the muddy trenches of World War I. But when the Bolshevik Revolution swept through Russia, Mannerheim's world vanished overnight. The Tsar was abdicated, the empire dissolved, the Mannerheim suddenly found himself a general without a sovereign, without a country, and without an army. He packed his bags and returned home to Finland. He left behind a glittering imperial court only to arrive in a homeland on the brink of absolute civil chaos. And it was there, in early 1918, that this aristocratic imperial general was handed a desperate, monumental task. Take a raw militia of Finnish farmers, hunters and citizens and forge them into a modern national army capable of defending their new republic from the looming Soviet shadow. The man who had spent his life defending the Russian Empire was now the only man standing between the Finland and the total Russian reabsorption. To commemorate this survival in 1918, the government commissioned one of the greatest national artists, Akseli Gallen-Kallela, to design a token for the man who held the line. I have to pause here for a second, just because I want to tell you how much I love making those videos for you. But no channel can survive long without subscribers, so please support me by subscribing to my channel. Look closely at the 1918 commemorative medal. It is usually struck in dark historic iron, or sometimes silver. This medal is packed with symbols. Look at the lion on the obverse. He has one normal lion's paw in front of him, but his right paw is actually a human arm in an armored gauntlet, gripping a straight European sword high above his head. And beneath his heavy hind legs, he is violently trampling a curved Russian saber into the ground. It is an explicit declaration cast in solid silver. The East has been broken. We have taken up the European sword of our own destiny. But it is the reverse that tells the real story. Galen Kallela went back centuries into the heraldry of Karelia, the borderline territory that has been fought over for 1,000 years. He sculpted those two armored arms, the arm of the West, clad in straight plate armor defending the country's values, and the arm of the East, clad in a mail sleeve striking inward with a curved blade. They are locked in a permanent, frozen duel, their blades forever hovering over the central Finnish rose. It is a stark reminder, minted directly into the medal. Finland's very existence requires a sword to be held in active defense. Now let us address the elephant in the room when looking at this reverse. Because a prominent, stylized cross sits behind the arms, some lazy internet propaganda occasionally tries to claim that this design on many Finnish medals proves that General Mannerheim and the Finnish state were siding with the German Nazis. Let me be very clear. That claim is absolute nonsense. When this medal was struck in mid-1918, Adolf Hitler was an unknown corporal, and the National Socialist German Workers' Party did not even exist at all. It wouldn't be founded until February 1920. To the Finnish people in 1918, this was an ancient, traditional Nordic symbol of light, fire, and national freedom. Do not let modern ideological distortions blind you to the actual chronological reality of history. This cross belongs to the birth of Finnish independence, not the dark shadows of 1930s Berlin. So many swords on a single medal, and the Finnish people would need them all just 21 years later, when the beast from the east would return to try to take their freedom away. By the way, if you have not watched my previous episode on 1939 Winter War, please do. But I want us to pause and think about one point tonight. We have grown up taking our basic freedoms entirely as granted. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the right to live securely in our homes. But if you look at the great tapestry of human existence, this peaceful reality is actually incredibly unique. In many parts of the world today, and in almost every single period of world history, ordinary people had to fight bloody, terrifying battles just to secure a fraction of those rights, a fraction of those freedoms. This Finnish medal is a witness in metal. It proves that democracy and independence are not natural states of nature. They are fragile structures built by sacrifice and maintained by constant vigilance. And that fight does not stop in the history books. We see it raging right now in Ukraine, for example, where an entire generation has been forced to step away from their normal lives, pick up rifles, and vigorously defend their country from beasts from the east. What we take for granted, others are dying to protect. This was Solo, with you tonight, bringing history to life over a late night cup of coffee. Please hit that subscribe button and see you next midnight.